She stood in the doorway of his office, holding a cup of cold coffee and smiling as if she'd just handed him a Christmas gift. "Happy Thanksgiving, Daniel," said Helen, her voice laced with quiet mockery. Daniel Fletcher didn't understand at first. He looked up from his paperwork, blinked, and stared at her hands. The cup didn't just hold coffee, inside lay his wedding ring. The very one with the engraving, "Forever Yours," that he'd reported missing a week ago. The one he'd claimed his housekeeper had stolen. He began, but his voice cracked. "Yes, me," Helen replied calmly. "I took it from your pocket while you were sleeping. Then I dropped it in your coffee so you'd remember who you really are." She set the cup on the edge of his desk and turned away. She didn't look back as she left. The door clicked shut behind her softly, without a slam. But to Daniel, it sounded louder than a gunshot. This wasn't just a gesture. It was the beginning. 13 years earlier, Helen and Daniel lived in a quiet suburb of Minnesota, in a house with cherry trees in the yard and white blinds on every window. They had a daughter, Lily, blonde-haired, stubborn-chinned, with a habit of kissing both parents goodbye on the cheeks. Back then, Daniel worked for an insurance firm, and Helen taught literature at the local college. Life moved slowly, peacefully, with just a hint of happiness. Then came Clay. Clay Hawkins, Daniel's older brother, the kind of man Helen disliked on sight. He arrived like a storm, tore through their lives, and left only ashes behind. First, he asked to borrow money for a couple of weeks. Then, for his business. Soon after, he stopped answering calls altogether. When their house was repossessed, Helen learned the truth. Daniel had given almost everything to his brother, including their joint savings, their mortgage fund, even Lily's college account. "He's my brother," Daniel had mumbled, eyes fixed on the floor. "I couldn't abandon him." "You abandoned us," Helen had said. "You chose him." They didn't divorce right away. Daniel begged, swore he'd get everything back, insisted Clay would straighten up. But instead, Clay married his girlfriend, moved into a bigger house, and Daniel kept grinding through 2 jobs, exhausted, gray, eyes empty of fire. And then, the worst of it all. Lily got sick. Leukemia. She needed expensive treatment. Helen pleaded with Daniel to at least ask Clay to return some of the money. He refused. "He's in a tough spot himself," he said. He refused. Not couldn't. Not was afraid. Refused. Lily died at 9 years old. In a white dress with embroidery Helen had stitched herself. After the funeral, Daniel vanished for a week. He returned with a bottle of whiskey and bloodshot eyes. Helen didn't say a word. She packed a suitcase, left the keys on the kitchen table, and drove away, not in rage, not in tears, but in silence louder than any scream. She didn't look for him. Didn't spy. Didn't seek revenge. Years passed. Helen settled near Salt Lake City and opened a small contemporary art gallery, modest but respected. She built a new life. New friends. Almost even love, with a quiet, kind painter named Sam who knew how to listen. Then one evening, she saw him. On television. In a news segment about a charity gala in downtown Salt Lake City. Daniel stood on stage beside Clay, both in flawless suits, applauding. He'd become director of a foundation supporting children with cancer. And, cruel irony, he was now funding the very treatments Lily never received. Helen turned off the TV. Silence filled the room. She didn't cry. Didn't rage. She simply realized Daniel had stolen Lily's chance at life and was now building a reputation on her tragedy. A career on her pain. A legend on her silence. And so she decided it was time to come back. Helen didn't arrive with accusations or threats. No. She arrived smiling. She bought a ticket to his foundation's charity dinner, showed up in an elegant black dress, and made a donation, exactly the amount Daniel had once given to Clay. She introduced herself as Helen Morgan, art collector from Utah. No one recognized the woman whose heart he'd shattered. Daniel recognized her instantly. He approached during the cocktail break, cautiously, like someone walking toward a live bomb. "Helen," he whispered. "You're here." "I heard you're a children's savior now," she said, sarcasm dripping from every word. "How sweet." It's not what you think. What do I think, Daniel? He didn't answer. Just pressed his lips tight and walked away. But Helen saw it. He was afraid. And this was only the beginning. The following week, she walked into the foundation's office. "I'd like to join the Ethics Advisory Board," she told the receptionist. "I have experience in education and child welfare." They accepted her, of course. Who would refuse a woman willing to volunteer her time? At first, she played the part perfectly. Asked neutral questions. Participated in meetings. But slowly, she began digging. She requested financial reports. Reviewed incorporation documents. Discovered the foundation spent 70% of its funds on administrative costs, not treatment, as advertised. That Clay, officially listed as a marketing consultant, received generous fees for services. That one of the foundation's major sponsors was a company Clay had registered just days before launching the nonprofit. Helen didn't rush. She collected. Patiently. Precisely. One evening, she showed up at Daniel's house. Didn't call. Just stood at the door. He opened it and froze. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice trembling. "To talk." She stepped inside. The house was different, larger, more luxurious. But it still smelled the same. Fear and lies. "You built all this on Lily," she said without sitting down. "You're using her name, her pain, her death, as a marketing slogan. I'm trying to make things right. You're not fixing anything. You just want the world to think you're a good man. To forget you let her die while your brother drove a brand new Lexus." Daniel clenched his fists. "You have no right. I have every right. And I won't stop until this whole city knows who you really are. You want to destroy the foundation? The kids we help. I want to destroy you. The foundation will survive. But you won't." She left. But this time, she left the door slightly ajar, symbolically. 2 weeks later, an anonymous article appeared in the local paper. "Tears for Dollars: How the Fletcher Foundation Turned Childhood Cancer into a Business." The details were exact. The figures verified. The names etched in black and white. Public outrage was instant. Sponsors pulled out. Donors demanded answers. And Clay, predictably, vanished first. Daniel resigned. The foundation suspended operations. The media tore him apart. People threw eggs at his car. Someone spray-painted "murderer" on his windshield. But Helen felt no satisfaction. Only exhaustion. One night, he called her. "Why did you do this?" he asked, his voice raw with tears. "To make you feel what I felt. Loss. Shame. Powerlessness. I didn't know Clay would do that. I trusted him. And you still think that's an excuse?" He fell silent. "I just wanted you to be proud of me," he whispered. "I'll never be proud of a man who chose his brother over his own child." After that call, he disappeared from town. No one knew where he went. Helen closed her gallery. Sold her house. Moved to the Oregon coast, where the ocean washes everything away, even memory. One day, she received a letter. No return address. Inside was a photograph of Lily. And a note. "Forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I remember her every day. Every second. I live with it. And I will until the end." She burned the letter. But kept the photograph. 2 more years passed. Helen opened a small home for families with critically ill children. No publicity. No foundations. Just a place with food, warmth, and someone who listens. One day, a woman arrived with an 8-year-old girl. The girl had leukemia. The woman's eyes were hollow. Helen hugged them both. And for the first time in years, she realized revenge doesn't heal. But helping does. Sometimes, at night, Lily still visits her in dreams. She stands in her white dress, smiling, and says, "Mom, you're saving others now." "That's right." And Helen wakes up with a quiet tear on her cheek. Not from pain, but from peace.